Well, thank you, Tom. Likewise, welcome everyone. I'm Stefan, the support and training team at TracPlus, and we're going to be looking at a bit of an overview of TracPlus Cloud, how you can get the most out of your map, and some of the more basic management and administrative functions. So I've just got a couple of slides just for orientation, just to start off with, and then we'll dive into the platform itself and just sort of have a work around some live tracks and just see what we can see there. But we're just going to cover what TracPlus Cloud is, just as a high level. A couple of notes about logging in, just for new users that may not have accessed it yet. And then a good little look at the whole map screen, the various panels that we have, and options for manipulating your trails. We'll look at messaging as well as friends and sharing, a couple of the reporting options that we have, as well as managing your assets and the emergency contacts that you can associate with various assets. And then a couple of points about just some simple account and organization settings toward the end. So TracPlus Cloud is a cloud-based common operating platform. It's device agnostic, meaning we support a wide variety of different hardware, and you can access it seamlessly on both Mac and OS, since it's just accessed through the browser. One of the most important things for us, and hopefully for you guys as well, is that it's designed for rapid iteration and deployment. Meaning that if there is any feedback we get from you guys as customers, or any issues that we have that we need to address, it's very quick for us to be able to make changes and to be able to deploy them live. It's not like an application where you need to download the latest version. Basically, refreshing your browser will give you the latest information, or the latest version of TracPlus. It also bundles in the administrative tools for easy asset management, as opposed to some of our past platforms where the administrative tools were kind of sectioned out. So it keeps it all in one place. You can easily export trip and mission reports from the platform, as well as being able to message to and from any compatible devices. So just logging in on any modern browser, just simply go to cloud.tracplus.com. and you log in using your own personal email and a password. This provides greater security and administrative oversight, meaning that any administrator can see who is currently a member of your organization. So if someone leaves, it's easy to identify them and to remove their permissions. It is up to the administrator of the organization to invite new users from within the platform itself. And the new user will receive an email that will guide them through a step-by-step process for signing up and providing a password, and then pretty much getting immediate access. Administrators are also able to invite new users with either view-only privileges or directly as an administrator themselves, so then they could further invite other people or make changes to assets. It's important to note, or useful to note, that any of the viewing preferences that we'll look at when we're looking at the maps, they're saved to your individual user, so that so these won't affect your organization settings. So if you want to have a play around, change the way trails look or the map split, this is just for you as an individual user. And so just as a quick orientation of the main home page or map screen, we see down the left-hand side, just your menu icons for the various pages in TracPlus Cloud. We've got the asset list panel, where any assets that you have will be displayed. At the top, if you are a member of more than one organization, perhaps a sub-org, maybe you've got like an administrative organization as well as a flight followers sort of org, you can easily switch between these by clicking the drop-down. Of course, we've got the main map view in the center. And to the right, we have our asset info and asset activity. Down the bottom, there's a little globe icon where you can change the time zone. This can be important if you're operating in areas where you're sort of crossing time zone boundaries, and just allows you to perhaps have a sensible conversation with somebody else in another zone, and you don't need to do some sort of mental arithmetic to sort it out. However, in all cases, UTC will be displayed next to your current time zone. Down the bottom of the map, there are a couple of options to split the map, which we'll look at, as well as map tools. And then we've got this show reports tab, which will, if you've got a selected asset, show the full reports for that particular day or leg. And so that's pretty much the little orientation thing. So I'm just going to stop sharing that and jump into the actual platform.
Yeah.
So let's just take a look first at the asset list panel down the left-hand side. At the top, you've got this smart search box where you can search on a variety of terms, including asset name, operator, watchlist group. And this field auto-completes. And so you can easily find any asset that you happen to be looking for. Below this is the button to view historical data. This will open a calendar where you can select a day from the past and jump in to be able to view tracks or asset activity from that particular day. If you need to select another date, you can click it again. And the date that you are looking at will be displayed within the button itself. To return to live trails, just click on the X and you'll come back to today. Below this, you'll see the list of all of your assets, and this will include any assets that you own, as well as assets that have been shared with you. You can group these assets by a variety of criteria by clicking the blue toggle next to the historical data button. And this will allow you to group by a number of options. And the default is latest activity, but you can also select make, model, owner, for example, category, and watchlist group. And by grouping them, this allows you to be able to hide certain assets. So at the moment, we're looking at Nelson Aviation here. We are able to just hide those and they will disappear from the view and you can avoid clutter. One kind of cool feature is that this, in fact, stacks. So you can come in, you've hidden a certain owner because you're not interested in looking at them today. You can then go back to latest activity and it will hide that particular owner, but will show all the rest of the owners with their latest activity shown. I'm just going to turn that back on again. Once your assets are grouped in the way that's most useful for you, you can pretty much hide them, as I mentioned, sorry. Note that each asset has this little box around it, and this comes with a little bit of useful information that you can view at a glance. By default, it shows altitude and speed, but through your asset or your organization settings, you can choose other information, for example, latitude and longitude. And this just gives you a little bit of more context that you can see at a glance. If you have an asset selected, you'll see the asset details shown in the right-hand panel. At the top, we have these asset details, which include the asset name, the make, model, as well as one of the unique identifying serials for the device. You can select whether it's the IMEI, as is the case here, manufacturer serial or TP serial. If you click on the little eye icon up here, it will take you directly to the Manage Asset page for that particular asset. And currently, the ability to upload your own asset image to display here is not implemented. However, this is an understandably common request and will be coming soon here. Below these asset details, you will see the activity for the asset, and activity is divided into trips or legs. These are triggered by startup and shutdown events. For example, this one here has had a startup, you can see here, a shutdown, another startup, well, startup here actually, but no shutdown yet. Whereas these ones down here, you can see all have a startup and then a shutdown, and it basically divides them into particular flights. You can click the little plus minus icon to hide or show these. If you've clicked on one of these legs, we'll go to the one that's actually got some information. You will see that we have the sort of main events that have occurred during that flight. So your startups and shutdowns, your engine starts, engine stops, takeoffs and landings. And in between them, you'll see this 1 report, 2 reports, 56 reports. And these refer to the just standard GPS position pings. Once you've clicked on one of these, the reports panel down the bottom will expand. And here you'll see all of the reports for that particular leg, including the standard reports that you see here. Using these two dropdowns, you can select which columns you want to display here. So if we drop down, if we, for example, don't need to see the latency, we don't need to see the elapsed time, we can easily turn them off just so you're looking at the information that you actually want to see. Likewise, we can filter events, and these events are the ones that we can see in the sort of the little leg box. So, you know, your startups and shutdowns. If you only want to see startups and shutdowns, you can click startup and shutdown, and you will get the times that those occurred. Maybe you also want to see takeoffs and landings. You can put them on as well. And whatever you have clicked in the select columns or event filters, you can also download. So by clicking this little download button, we can export as a CSV or a KML file, and it will just include the information that you have chosen to select from here. And you can at any time hide the reports panel to get your screen real estate back. At the bottom left-hand corner of the map, you'll see various map tools. So to start off with, I'll just zoom in a little bit. There is an option, so if you hold Control and move your mouse, you can sort of orientate the map in various ways. Sometimes you do this by accident and are no longer facing sort of true north at the top. You can reset this at any time by clicking the Reset Map button. The follow asset, if I just move this over here, if you have an asset selected at any time, you can click Follow Asset, and that will bring it to the center of the screen, and it will remain there as you click it back on, as you fly. So basically, the map will move underneath the asset, and it will retain that at the center. We also have this measurement tool, and this is quite neat. Just make sure I've got that. That you click on this, it shows the distance from the icon of the asset to the cursor. You can see up in this top right-hand panel. Where this, and it will sort of basically calculate the speed that it is traveling, like if it is in flight, and give you an ETE and ETA for where you're going. So where this becomes more useful is, for example, if there was an airfield here on Rabbit Island, I can click here, and that will actually put a marker that remains sort of pinned, and it will show you your ETA and ETE to that particular marker. And you can turn that off at any time by just clicking the measurement tool again. With the map settings is this little layers icon. You can click on that, and then we have a variety of things you can do here. So for a start, there's the map layers. At the moment, we just have a hybrid map and the terrain map. We'll be including sky vector maps as well as maritime maps coming very soon. There is the ability to drop a single KML layer at this point, where maybe you've generated a layer from Google Earth, which maybe has airfields or maybe a water source. And you can drop that here, and then any positions or points of interest that you've included on that will be shown and displayed as a layer on your map. Just one caveat is that at this stage, you can only drop one at a time. This will definitely be changing, and we'll be able to put multiple ones. And it is also still local to your machine, so it won't be organization-wide, which is another thing that we will be implementing, so that an administrator can upload something that they want the rest of the organization to be able to see. You've got some various trail animation options here. The animations essentially are these marching ants, which indicate the direction of travel. Some people find these distracting, and so you, of course, have the opportunity to turn these off. Or, as was the case at this one, you can select animate the selected asset trail, which will mean that just this one is animated and other ones aren't. Oops, apologies. But yes, if you don't like them, they're easily switched off. Out from there, should stop following that asset, so we'll do that. Underneath this are the trail options. By default, it is generally all assets, all asset trails and all icons are displayed. So here we can see both of these assets are displayed, as well as both of the trails. However, if you only want to see one asset trail, you can have all icons showing, but only the selected asset trail, or you can just show the selected asset and its selected trail, so the icon of your other asset disappears. But if you don't need to see the trails this time, you've got like a lot of assets in a sort of similar area, and you just want to see where they are, you can use the no trails asset icons only. And so then you'll just see where your assets are at any given time. Below this, you've got your asset labels, which essentially just turns on the asset name for a particular asset. And then we have asset clustering, where it doesn't really work when we've just got two. But if you have a lot of assets in one place, they're sort of overlapping each other, you can turn this on and they'll be displayed either as an overlay, if it's less than 7 assets in that area, or if there are more than that, it displays as a number. And it's sort of dependent on your zoom level. So if you zoom out, you'll get like the clustering, but if you zoom right in, it'll come down and display the individual assets. And that's pretty much the options that we have there. Just turn that off. And one other thing on the map here, down the bottom, we have our split map options. And this is particularly useful with the follow asset function. So if we jump into like a 3-map split, so this way you've got like, you can have sort of a larger map down the bottom, for example, where you have, you can zoom right out and have sort of a better situational awareness of your assets. And perhaps don't turn flight following on, so the map stays centered, your assets will move around. However, you can use the smaller maps. If you click on it, they're all, and then click into an asset, and then click into the asset, and choose to follow that asset, and that will keep that one way at the center of the screen. This looks like it's not exactly what it's supposed to be. And likewise, we can come over here and choose to follow the other asset. Yeah. And that will also, oops, sorry. And that will keep that one at the center of the screen as well. All of these maps are independently customizable in the same way that we just looked at. So I can come in here, I can change this to a hybrid. I can change the way the trails look just for that particular map. Okay. And then there are just a couple of other options that appear on every page in TracPlus Cloud. As we mentioned at the top, there's the organization switcher, which allows you to move between different organizations. Basically, if you are invited to another organization with an email, once your email is registered, your new organization will automatically appear in this dropdown. At the top right, there is an icon to allow you to view your own personal account settings. So you can change your password or email address. And at the bottom right, that we saw, there was the globe icon, which allows you to change your time zone. And if you needed Spanish, you can select Spanish there. And as we saw in our preview, down the left-hand side are your various menu items. So here we're looking at the main map screen. We've got messaging, sharing, and friends, your reporting tab, manage assets, and basically settings. So let's just have a quick look at the messaging tab. If we jump in here, if you're messaging an asset for the first time, you'll need to find it by basically clicking on here. And again, it's a smart search. So if I go emo in, then I'm going to be finding the demo Montana. I can go Stefan, and I'll see my 2 Rockstar devices. So I can click on it here. It will automatically select it over on the left-hand side. And you'll see all the messages that have come to and from these devices. Should go to the one I've been using most recently. And you'll see the messages that have been sent to the device and sent out from the device. If it's been sent to the device, you'll get an indication of where it has come from. So if it says this is basically your organization username, your organization, but whoever's logged in to that organization will be identified. So this is Hussein, who's sent a message to my device. And this one here is me logged in myself from the same organization sending a message to this particular device. If there are no indication of where it's come from, then that's the device sending out to somewhere else or to the platform itself. And then there are other options. So for example, the Rockstar here was sending a message to my email address. And this is my email address sending back, because TracPlus doesn't know exactly what the email is. It comes through basically our servers and shows up as system. To write a new message, you simply can write hi. And hit send. And that will go to the device. If you have had a conversation with this device before, you can use the find conversation to do the same thing. And again, you can search by a variety of criteria. You cannot, however, search by the conversation content. So I can't search like hello and find this particular conversation. In TracPlus Cloud, you can easily share your assets with other users, organizations, or groups of organizations, for example, regulatory orgs, and give them specific permissions to view your tracking information. To initiate sharing, you first need to become friends with that organization or group. And note that only administrators will be able to actually add a friend. View-only users will be able to see what friends you currently have. To add a friend, you first need to reach out to the organization that you want to share to and request their public key, which you will see at the top of this friends and groups page in any organization. You can simply click the little icon there to copy it to your clipboard. And once that's been sent to you, you can add a friend by clicking the add friend button, and you paste in your friend's public key and hit invite. And this will add them to this list of friends that you are now able to share assets to. Once you have befriended another organization, you can then share your asset with them. So you go up to the sharing tab, and you'll see assets that are shared by you. So in this case, this is owned by my organization, and I'm sharing it with TracPlus Demo. And then you can see assets that are shared to you. And down this list here, you'll see which owner it is that has shared the asset to you. And the various permission levels are indicated by these green bars. To share your asset, simply click Create Share. And you can then select your asset. So we have Stefan's other Rockstar, happens to be the only one that isn't currently shared that I can share out. And you can then click which organization you would like to share that with, and then give them the various permissions that you would like them to have. So we have view live trails. That is a rolling 24 hours of tracks, so basically current data. We've got view historical trails, so that's all asset trails sort of going back in time. At this point, there is no ability to say, I only want to share 1 week in the past. It's either like this current 24 hours or like the full historical tracks of the device. If you're sharing a device and you don't want someone to be able to see messages that are coming into the system or to be able to message out to that device, leave this option unchecked. However, if the person that you're sharing to, you want them to see messages coming from the device, you want them to be able to message out, then you will need to click the send messages. Configure device allows in some instances the ability to change some configuration on certain kinds of devices, for example, changing the tracking rate over the air. And view forms if you've created a form, again, on specific devices, for example, rock stars or rock ears. You can create forms using the TP Connect app. And if you've done so, then allowing that checkbox will let your the organization you're sharing with view those forms as well. Yeah. So at any time, and it's shared by me, you can see what access people have. And by hovering over, it gives you that indication in the black box. And you can at any time come in and edit this share by turning off what configurations you would like to do. And if you no longer want to share that device, you can easily click delete share, and that will remove that from their visibility. Coming down to the reporting tab. Currently, we have the ability to view and download mission reports, which provides a sort of fairly detailed information about your flight. So it's got a little map with where you went and altitude and the like and times, but also trip reports, which give you a broader sort of a short overview of your flights. So we jump into one of these that hopefully has got something. Go. Oh, there's nothing for that one. Cool. To generate a trip report, you do need to have a startup or shutdown or takeoff and landing event to sort of mark the start and finish of these. But once you have them, you can select your month that you want to look at and go, and then you've got these here, and you can download as a CSV. Cool. And let's click into there. Oops, sorry. So next thing we will look at is your asset management page. From here, you'll see your various assets and people that you have that you're able to manipulate. If it just shows up with the eye icon, that means that it is owned by another organization. So you can view these, you can see the asset name and details, but you're not able to make any changes here because obviously they are owned by somebody else. However, if we go back and we find an asset that we do own, we can click on in here. And here you can update your asset name, the various categories that it might be. So helicopter, you have tractor, put it back as a helicopter, even though it's a rock star. These basically change what the icon is on the map screen, whether it's a fixed wing or rotary. At the moment, another thing that's very commonly requested is that the icons reflect the kind of the make or model of the asset. So, for example, you've got a six-blade helicopter, you want to be able to see that reflected in your asset. Currently, it's just got a single default one, but we will be adding those very soon. So basically, once you've added your make and model in, it will recognize that in the system and display an appropriate icon for that. You'll see the assets messaging handle here, and we've got this watch list group, which allows you to set up either assign a watch list group to this asset or create a new one. So we've got Northern and Southern here. We can create an Eastern region, and let's save. And now we can assign these devices to certain region, to certain watch lists that are customizable per your organization. Rather than having to organize assets by make or model or owner, we can now use this. And if I just quickly jump back to the map screen, on there, we can group by watch list group. And that looks like that didn't save it at that point, but we have our Eastern region, Southern, oh no, so I've changed it to Eastern region. And so now we can group by those or hide them as we looked at before. So I'll just come back to the manage. Well, so that's basically your asset details that you can manipulate. The next panel down here is just your device information that you can sort of see at a glance. Next down is our emergency contacts, and this is where you can assign contacts and assign which kind of emergency what you want to send to, whether it's a voice message, an SMS, or an email. And the icons that we can see up here indicate how many of each type of ICE contact are associated with this particular asset. And we can come in here, if we edit that, I can see that I have a voice contact that's available to me. So I can either send it as an SMS or as a voice. By clicking the icon, it turns blue. And now that I know that in the case of an emergency, this phone number will get called if it's on the appropriate plan, as well as get an SMS message. This phone number is a landline, so it doesn't have the SMS option. And you can also send to an email address should you need to. And you can just turn that off and save. One thing to be aware of is that you can't edit these contacts here. It kind of looks like you can, but these are just FYI fields. If we do need to either create a new contact or edit these contacts, we need to go to the organization settings page, but there's a helpful link here which takes you directly there. We'll just jump into that. And so here you have your contacts that are available to you to use as ICE contacts. And this is essentially the address book for your organization. And we can just create a new contact if you wanted, like John, and you can choose here whether it's a phone, SMS, or email. Obviously, you put in the country code and then the number. Another thing to be aware of is that if you do have multiple contacts for a single person, you will need to enter them separately at this stage. But once you have entered the second time, so maybe you entered an SMS contact and then an email, once that has been done, they will sort of consolidate them. So here, this has been entered as an SMS, but we've also got an email. We'll just go back to asset again. So once you have your contact there, you can easily add new emergency contacts for each asset. So this is on a per asset basis. If you have assigned voice contacts, so not just SMS, so someone's going to call, our emergency escalation process has it that we need to set the priority. So in the case of an emergency, we start calling at the top, and if we don't get through, we call the next one. And from here, you can easily change these, but just simply dragging and dropping the contact. Down the bottom of the asset page is your messaging whitelist. And again, this is only for certain kinds of devices, but particularly the ROC ears. If you want to message the device from a mobile phone for the first time or an email address, you want to send an email to a device, we need to first whitelist this contact. This is just to prevent spam coming through and just to add a little bit more privacy. Again, we need to add this contact from our, basically the address book that we did the same thing with the emergency contacts. And once that's added, you can easily add these into your whitelist for this particular asset. So some usability features will be coming very soon for this, in the sense of the ability to copy the ICE contacts and emergency, and message whitelist from another asset, so you don't need to do this individually for each asset in your organization. So hopefully that comes pretty soon and will be very helpful. And then if we just come down to our settings page, we have a couple of different settings. Just the general settings here just provide a few basic things. Some people like to have dark mode. For example, if you're looking at the screen for a long time, you can easily switch that on, and it just provides you, rest your eyes a little bit. when I talked about the asset boxes down on the left-hand panel on the map screen, this is where you can select what other information you want to display at a glance. For example, your track and speed, you can show position, whether it's the owner you want to see at a glance, and category, other things there. By default, it's I think by default it's altitude and speed. And then on the right-hand panel that we looked at, this is where you can select whether or what the unique identifying serial for the devices that you display. Again, this is just information at a glance. And then finally, on this page, you can set the kind of units that make most sense for your organization, whether you need to be kilometers, statute miles, nautical miles. So this just works in with the best way that you guys use it. If we come across the organization, this is where you can see information about your organization. If you are an administrator, you are able to update these. The primary contact is an important one. These email addresses are where you'll get any communications from TracPlus regarding like firmware updates, any sort of outages that we may be experiencing that we need to communicate to. So it's a really good idea to make sure that these are kept updated. These contacts are also who we would ask to be at least CC'd in any requests that have come through that to change things on our back end. This just provides the paper trail and the confirmation that the owner of the organization is authorizing a change to be made. And then obviously the billing contact is just where an invoice would be sent. Coming down here, you can see all the users that are currently logged in, or not logged in, but registered with your organization. And you can see what privilege they are currently given. So Bob, which is me, is currently view only. You can easily elevate their privilege by clicking them to be administrator. If, for example, Bob no longer is with this organization, you can simply click delete and remove Bob from TracPlus Demonstration Internal. Okay. So this just allows you to basically maintain your organization list. Inviting a user is really simple. You just enter your email address, give them a name, and you can, from here, assign whether or not you want them to be view only or administrator. And we already chatted about the contacts down here. And so basically to add a contact, we're just adding from there. And then lastly here, just your own personal account settings. We've got Stefan at TracPlus, my email address, and I'm able to update both of those. And you can also see at a glance what organizations you're actually a member of. And if you wish to leave an organization, you can just click this little leave icon here. And that is pretty much the end of that at a glance. And I do apologize for the couple of technical difficulties that came along the way there. That was a little bit frustrating, but we do have a couple of minutes. So Tom, if there were a couple of things that you thought would be a cool thing to answer, then let me know.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Stefan. And I do just want to quickly mention, it is our primary focus to continue to add value to all of our customers. So we're going to be regularly releasing new features. And just quickly before we wrap up, if you would like to just add in the Q&A box the features that you'd value the most, that would be helpful for us as well. So just wrapping through the questions. We've got 9, so we probably don't have time to answer them all, but we will be sending out an email with our answers. But I'll just go through a couple now. So Nico asked, any costs or licensing limitations to creating user accounts?
Not for individual users. There is just the standard, like to create an organization. There is like the $15 basically user code. This was what you would have access to TracPlus Pro 3 in the past with, and if you're still using that for various reasons, that user code is associated with that. But once that user code is created, then anytime you want to add a new user to your organization, you can go in here and you can have basically unlimited number of users associated with that user code per se, at no additional cost.
Cool. James asked, can users be restricted to single selected assets, i.e. client only able to see the aircraft on their project?
Not as such at the moment here. The way that a lot of people have done this, at least in the past, is to create sub-orgs. So for example, if we just thought of TracPlus internal as being like the owner that owns all of them, has massive visibility, but maybe you are contracting out, so you'll create like TracPlus demo, which is just like just wants to view maybe 2 aircraft. That's yep. So you'd create basically a separate organization and share the assets from your main one to that organization, and they would only have access to that. They'll have it as view only, so they couldn't make any edits to any assets or see things that you didn't want them to see. But we are looking at being able to implement. So at the moment, we only have the ability to do view only or administrator within a certain organization, but it would certainly be really useful to be able to assign users to a particular asset at sort of a more fine-grained level of sort of viewing as such. Yeah, that's a good question, and I think that makes a lot of sense rather than having to move between organizations.
Just super conscious of time, and Zoom might be closing our webinar down if we run over. So that's probably all the questions we can answer, but we will be sending all of the answers on an email post session. So look out for that. And if anyone does want more training, we can run specific custom training sessions for anyone. So please just reach out to us and we can organize that. Yeah. But basically, thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Stefan, for presenting. I hope you all found value in the session, and yeah, if you do have any other questions, just feel free to email us.
Cool. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate your time.